Over the centuries, there have been many famous thieves in literature and history. Some you may think of like Robin Hood, Arsène Lupin, or even somebody like Ishikawa Goemon from Japanese literature and history. However, long before these names, there was a man in ancient Japan, in Heian era Japan, who was known for being the most skilled thief in all the land, and who made a name for himself that lasted for centuries and even over a millennia. And today we are going to talk about one of the stories involving him. So, Yokoso owashitare. Welcome back to another story that we have here, and let's just get right on into it. Once upon a time, imawa mukashi, there was an incredible thief who stalked the land. He was very level-headed and shrewd, very physically powerful, whose feet were fast as the wind, and was skilled and dexterous in all sorts of artistry. Arts? Not to mention he was clever and cunning. There was no thief in the whole of the realm that could ever compare to him. And he made a living by going around the capital and stealing out from under the noses of the nobility their treasures and their riches. And this man's name was Hakamatare. Now, hakama are the pleated pants that you'll see samurai and ancient Japanese people wearing, and tare means to hang from something. So one of the names that was given that I heard from the History of Japan podcast was droopy pants. So droopy pants. We're just going to call him Hakamatare, but if you want to call him droopy pants, more power to you. However, to continue with the story, it was a dark and stormy night. Well, actually, at time of recording, it is a dark and stormy night. It's actually storming right now, and you may even hear some thunder coming through the window and into the microphone. But in the story, it was just a dark night. Sorry to get your hopes up. One night on the 10th month, so sometime in the late fall-ish, Hakamatare realized that he needed a new change of clothing. Now, of course, he wasn't going to go out and earn new clothing, and he wasn't going to go out and buy new clothing. No. He was going to steal some clothing. And so, after wandering around the capital for a little bit, looking for a good place or somebody to steal from, he wandered around, and when it hit about midnight, when everybody was quietly sleeping, he suddenly came across a solitary single man, dressed in some exquisitely fine apparel. He was wearing some sashinuki-style trousers, which are very nice trousers, and he was wearing a kariginu robe. It's a special kind of robe that the nobility wears when they're out and about and they're doing physical activity. It's not quite the formal wear, but it is still a high-quality piece of clothing that the nobility wore that was very high status and very, very fine. And Hakamatare noted how this man's clothing also seemed to flutter lightly in the wind, meaning that it was made out of very fine, high-quality material. Now, the interesting thing about this man is, again, he was walking completely alone, and he was casually playing a flute while he was walking, I guess to, give himself a little bit of entertainment on the road. And despite it being the middle of the night, and the fact that robbers and thieves and all sorts of brigands could potentially be wandering around, this man was just sauntering on, just swaggering along without a single care in the world, not nervously glancing behind him, not desperately grasping at the sword that he probably had slung at his hip. No. He just played his flute, casually, calmly, and proceeded down one of the main thoroughfares in the capital. Now, when Hakamatare saw this, of course, he instantly thought, "Oh boy, well, I found somebody who's gonna get me my new change of clothes today now, haven't I?" And he was elated. He was so excited. He could not ask for a better situation. A lone nobleman with lots of fancy clothes and without a care in the world, not paying attention to anything around him. Oh my gosh, you couldn't ask for a better situation. And so at first, old Hakamatare thought to himself, I think I'll just run up, beat the man into submission, and take the clothes off of his back, and just jettison on out of there. Make it nice and simple and easy. And just as he was getting himself ready to go do just that, something made him stop. Again, at first glance, this seemed like the perfect opportunity. This man had zero care, none. And so something about him just felt off to Hakamatare. So he thought for a second. He thought, maybe I'll tail him for a little bit and see if there's anything odd about him. We'll just wait a second. We'll check the scene out before we jump in and do anything that we might end up regretting. And so he did. He tailed this man for about 2 or 3 cho of length, which is roughly equivalent. 1 cho is roughly equivalent to about 100 yards or 100 meters or so. So they went a distance, not crazy far, but they went a decent distance. Probably were walking for another minute or so. And the whole time, this flute-playing nobleman betrayed no thought, no movement that he was worried about anybody following him, nor did he seem to care in the slightest. He just kept casually playing the flute and walking along. And so Hakamatare began thinking to himself, okay. Hold on. I'm just wigging myself out. But maybe there is something. Maybe there's something here. Let's try this guy out. Let's test it out and see what happens. And thinking this, Hakamatare immediately ran at this man. And he ran in such a way as to purposefully make lots and lots of sound. Like his footfalls were heavy and hard and loud, and he beelined it straight for this guy. Now he was expecting the man to turn around and go, "Oh no, somebody's attacking me." But he didn't. He just kept sauntering along playing his flute. And when Hakamatare saw this, he immediately got freaked out, and before he made it to the man, he immediately changed course and ran off to the side and amongst the shadows. And Hakamatare couldn't believe what he was seeing, like, what the heck is going on here? And so he tested this man, again, same thing, ran at him really loudly, really obviously, and when the man didn't react at all, he bailed. And he did this multiple times. And no matter what he did, no matter what angle he approached the man at, no matter in what way he ran at the man, there was zero reaction from him. It was really, really weird. And it was starting to freak him out a little bit. And they kept this whole thing up for about 10 cho of distance. So about, 1,000 yards or so. They had gone a fair distance at this point. And now, Hakamatare was starting to get a little bit frustrated and angry. And he finally said, "You know what? Screw this. I'm going after him." And at this point, he drew his sword. And then he charged at the man. Sword drawn, sword raised, like, "You will react to me. How dare you ignore me like this?" And as soon as he drew his sword and took a few steps towards this man, the man stopped playing his flute, immediately turned around, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "Hey, who are you?" And at this point, Hakamatare just has to stop. Because again, even though this man is now acknowledging his existence, he said it so casually and with such confidence that he couldn't believe it. Like, even a god, or some kind of a demon, if they had been in this situation, they would have reacted sooner, and maybe have been at least, concerned a little bit that somebody was attacking them with a sword, like somebody was actively trying to harm them. But this man did not seem fazed in the slightest. Like, he was now threatening to kill him, and this guy is just like, "Don't care. No worries, bro. It's whatever. I'm walking alone at night in a place that has very often seen its fair share of, thieves and robbers and brigands, but whatever, it's fine. I'm totally alone. I have all this expensive clothing and all this nice apparel, who cares?" And that made Hakamatare so freaking scared. He became so terrified. This man was something more than a man. Something was wrong here, really, really not right. And at this point, Hakamatare became so scared and so just blown out of his mind that he dropped to his knees and just knelt there, not knowing what to do or how to react. He'd never been in this situation. And he just stared at this guy. Just this blank, unbelieving, unresponsive stare. And so once more, this guy asked him, "Hey, so who are you? What do you want?" And the first thing that Hakamatare thought was, there is no way this guy is going to let me off the hook, and there is probably no way I could escape him if he wants to do me in. What do I do? And after thinking this, and not really knowing what else to do, Hakamatare simply told the truth. He just answered the question. "Well, I came here to steal the clothes off of your back. My name is Hakamatare." And when the man heard this, he just kind of nodded curtly and understandingly and said, "Oh, you're Hakamatare. That's you. Yeah, I've heard about you. There's rumors about you all over the place. what you're doing is kind of reckless and silly if I'm being totally honest. But you know what? Why don't you just come along with me? Accompany me." And saying this, he immediately turned back around, started playing his flute again, and started walking off. And again, Hakamatare didn't really know how to react to this. He just began thinking that this man was clearly no mortal man. Like, there must be something grander about him. There must be something supernatural about him. But he also wasn't attacking him. He wasn't trying to do him in. He wasn't trying to punish him for attempting to steal the clothes off of his back. And not knowing what else to do, he just followed him. He just listened. What else are you going to do? Now, the whole time he was worried that suddenly this dude was going to transform into some hideous monster, some almighty god, or some terrifying demon and attack him, but that never happened. He just followed this man all the way to this huge house, this grand, amazing house. And he followed this man through the gate and to the house. And when this man actually got to the first building, he immediately went up into the house, because if you know anything about Japanese architecture, all of the living spaces are raised above the floor. And so this man went up into the actual veranda of the house without removing his shoes, which is technically a big no-no in Japanese culture, but at this time, you could get away with that if it was your house. And so as soon as he saw this, Hakamatare realized, oh, this must be the lord of this grand, amazing mansion. And when the man went up, he went into the house and really quickly came back. And then he called Hakamatare over to him, and he handed him a thick cotton robe, very fine, very high quality piece of clothing. And he told him, here's some clothing for you. And if in the future you need something else like this, please come to me and let me know. You going out there and attacking random people you don't know is going to come back to bite you in the butt and will cause you serious harm. So, if you have any problems with clothing, just come to me and I'll hook you up, okay? And saying that, this man immediately went back into his house and just left Hakamatare there holding a very expensive piece of clothing. Now Hakamatare, after that, learned that that was in fact the house of the former governor of Setsu province, Fujiwara no Yasumasa, a very, very high-ranking nobleman in the Heian court. And before he left, he just had to take a minute to marvel at the sheer personage of Yasumasa. Like, this was a man beyond men. Like, to have such confidence, to be so stable, to be so unconcerned when he was clearly in a hostile situation, and to also be so kind as to give a thief a piece of very expensive clothing. It was so hard for him to believe that as he left this house, he almost didn't even feel like he was himself. He felt like he had died in some weird way. Like, he didn't know how to deal with this. This was so mind-blowing. And when Hakamatare was eventually caught by the police or some other people, he couldn't help but recount this experience to them and comment how it was so strange, so frustrating, but also terrifying when he met Yasumasa. Like, this was a man that was so beyond anything he had ever experienced before. And unfortunately, the story doesn't give us the ultimate fate that awaited Hakamatare, but it ends the story commenting on this Yasumasa, saying that he was not a warrior. He was not from a warrior family, but he was the son of a man named Fujiwara no Munetada, who also was not a warrior, but despite not being a warrior, he was second to none of them when it came to bravery, steadiness, skill, strength, or cunning. He was in fact in all of those aspects, in all of the aspects in which a warrior thought important, just as good as the best among them. And because of that, the world at large, the public, both respected and feared him. And it's not hard to see why. I mean, if that's how he acted when being attacked by a thief, knowing that there was a thief around, like, bro, you have to have next level confidence in order to behave that way. You have to be so confident that no matter what happens to you, you can handle the situation. Oof. Now, unfortunately, this Yasumasa did not have any descendants. His line unfortunately ended with him. And thus was it said that his legacy was not continued because he was unfortunately born in the wrong household. At least that's what I think the ending is saying. I'm not entirely sure. It just says that he didn't have any descendants, and the people said that that was because ie ni aranu yue ni ya, meaning that because he was not in the house, question mark. So I'm not entirely sure what the ending is saying, but it's just saying that he didn't have any descendants, so whatever. Okay, but that is actually the end of the story, so that is your introduction to Hakamatare, Droopy Pants, the amazing thief. I do believe there are some other stories and legends out there about him that you are free to look up. I don't know if there are any more in here, but I think this is the only one in this collection of tales. So, hopefully you enjoyed the story, and if you did, please give the video a like, and if you want to stay informed as to new stories, because new stories come out every single week, and trust me, there are a lot of stories to get through, please subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, anything about the language or anything about the culture. I will answer to the best of my ability, but I am not a credential expert, so, don't get your hopes up. And share with everybody that you know. Share with your weeb friends, share with your Japanese history friends, share with your history friends, and share with your literature and storytelling friends. Anyway, I want to thank you one more time if you've made it all the way to the end here. Ito katejike no koso haberi kere. And hopefully we will see you here next week for another war tale about the samurai and the warriors from ancient Japan. Anyways, I'll end it there. Have a good one. See you later, guys.